Welcome to the Jeff and Alex podcast. I am Jeff Hilimire, and with my friend Alex Gonzalez, we explore topics that help you be your best self. And we also get to chat with some great guests. So join us now on the Jeff and Alex podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeff and Alex podcast. And I am Alex Gonzalez, and I'm here with Jeff Hilimire. And happy holidays to everybody, because as we drop the show, we're right in the middle of Christmas, New Year's, all the holidays. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. I needed this break. I don't know about you. Usually, like, the holidays come and it's a break, but it's also hectic and whatnot. But after this year, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it was a little busier at the beginning of the break than I expected it to be, but just kind of getting things going. But yeah, no, this is nice, not just kind of relax and talking to a lot of people about just really disconnecting. And it's interesting. I've heard more people taking a longer period of time off this year. One, because it's needed, because we definitely cannot wait for this 2020 to end.
Yeah.
But two, some people just have not taken any vacation this year either.
Yeah. You're taking some good time off to work on some of your projects.
Yeah, working, of course, center to it is the Jeff and Alex podcast, of course. And of course, some Disruptor Studio stuff. But yeah, the book being a big one. So, we're going to try to outpace the Jeff Hilimire book production output. So, but a big part of break too. But actually, this is not even so much break. But as this year, Jeff, streaming and content was big for everybody. People, I love asking people what their favorite shows were that they've discovered. When you and I were talking, even before we started this podcast, you and I both early on found out that we both had a love for Apple TV Plus in particular, and the new platform. And I'm trying to remember some of the original shows because they got delayed with the pandemic and releasing, because I think it would be right about now when they would be releasing season 2. But I think it was like C and a few other shows that of course the one with Jennifer Aniston and Steve Carell. But we fell in love with Apple TV Plus.
Morning Show is what did get
Morning
me
Show.
in, and that's the one with Jennifer Aniston.
And M. Night Shyamalan has a show that the season 2 is about to come out.
Yeah, I think that Servant, maybe.
Servant, yes, Servant. You're better at the names.
I didn't check that one out yet, but Morning Show got me hooked, and the quality was so good. And then I watched Mythic Quest, which is a video game company.
Yes, that was really good.
Loved. So, you get 2 really good shows out of the gate. I think that had me hooked.
Well, it was so good there. I mean, there's still a bunch of shows I've not watched on it, but it's so good that I kind of started creating a blind trust to, if something's going to be on Apple TV Plus, I'll even give it a shot. But one show that kind of snuck up is a show called Ted Lasso. And Jeff, you and I talked a little bit about this, but for those who have not heard of Ted Lasso, the essence of the story is it is about a soccer coach, or actually college football, in fact, more specifically in the show, Division II football coach from Kansas. He gets brought over to England to go into the English Premier League, which is essentially the highest league in soccer in the world. And or some people I know some people argue against me, but we'll leave that for another show. But to become a coach of a soccer program of a football club that is not doing very well, and so of course all the antics go on, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But Jeff, when this show when they started promoting the show, Jason Sudeikis, I was, first of all, I was intrigued and I was kind of excited, and it was Apple TV Plus. But I was a little leery as well, too, because I don't think a lot of people realize this, but although it's more and more people are knowing this, but this was based off a TV promo that NBC did about 6 years ago when they were bringing the English Premier League over. They bought the rights for it for the United States to broadcast the Premier League, which is, again, probably the most valuable sports asset in the world. And they wanted to go big, and so they hired, Saturday Night Live, Jason Sudeikis to play they created up this character called Ted Lasso, and it was this goofy guy talking about, not understanding the difference between a soccer tackle and a football tackle, and, not understanding that you could have ties and all that type of stuff, and kind of play the stereotype. But I was actually a little concerned that I'm like, I was excited about watching it, but I thought it was going to be a little too goofy at first.
Mhm.
Not that I don't like goofy, believe me, I love a lot of good movies. But man, Jeff, as I got into it, I'd say it's about show 2 or 3, or episode 2 or 3 of this series. I got my wife into it, and she got hooked
Yeah.
big time. And
Yeah.
that's when I realized, that this is something pretty different. So how did you get pulled into the Ted Lasso phenomena that we're seeing here?
Yeah. Yeah. You're the one that told me you
Oh
gotta
boy,
you gotta look at this show. And I watched it, I think maybe we've talked about this, but I watch a lot of shows while I do the dishes.
right?
So in our family, we have, 5 children. And so the dishwasher runs almost twice a day. And so my job in the house is to do all the dishes, clean the pots and pans. Sometimes that could take an hour. And so I watch shows, and I crushed Ted Lasso. And it is so I've just now started watching it with my wife and 16-year-old. So I'm watching it again. And it is at the end of episode 2. You just fall in love with the kid. There's something that happens there right
Yeah.
at the end. You fall in love with the guy, and it's over. You're just like rooting for him. It's just this great. But yeah, you were the one that said you got to check it out.
Well, and it's interesting because I started rewatching a little bit, anticipating I was talking about it, and one, it's a quick, for those who've not seen it. First, get Apple TV Plus. It's $5, I think, a month, $6 a month. I believe, in fact, I don't think I'm paying for it for like another 2 years, because they had a promo this year. I'm not sure they're still doing it. If you buy an Apple product, they give you 6 months free and it got stacked up. But it's a great value, so make sure you get it, and good content. But a very easy to consume show. I will say that it is a mature comedy. So there's for
Mhm.
those of you who have a kid, in elementary school playing soccer, this is actually not a soccer show. Even though it is about soccer, it is really not a soccer show. But it is some definitely more adult comedy and with language and all that. But yeah, Jeff, it is. I noticed it was like that episode 3 when was like, this is a totally different, and it was almost disorienting. Like, I don't know what's going on here. What is this? Is this show really going to be a feel good show? Is
Mhm.
this really? I didn't understand what was happening. But what got me too, Jeff, and I know you've been kind of reaching out to some folks on this as well. But I was then starting to surprised to hearing just randomly people mention the show to me, and
Yeah.
seeing it on social media. And I think you started getting some reactions as well too from folks about Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I sure did. I'm gonna pull up a few in particular that I thought were interesting. But I'll tell you, this is probably to people that it's always a home run for them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, one of my neighbors, I recommended it to him, and like 3 days later, he's like, I watched the whole thing. It was unbelievable. So people love it once they get into it. So let's see. One of the tweets back. So I put this on Twitter. If you love Ted Lasso, why? Um, so when the world keeps slinging crap, indifference, obstacles, etc., at someone, and they can show pure love in return, that's incredible to watch. And somebody else said something about like, I'd marry that guy if I could. And this one, it's like a warm hug in a time when we shouldn't be hugging.
Oh,
So,
that's great.
and we should say like the character is just the most optimistic and positive. He's a little bit goofy, but he's not stupid.
Yeah.
He's intelligent, but just so positive, and you can't help but be won over by that and rooting for him. And yeah, he has everything go wrong, and yet he keeps that attitude. It's really inspiring to watch.
Yeah, and they have some, and it's like it's I think you could say, why does the world need it now? First of all, it's a very good product. So it's well written, well acted. Some actors outside of Jason that I've not seen before that I think are now becoming huge stars. And the character development is so good, because there's some characters at the beginning, without giving anything away, because in the streaming world you never know when you're out of spoiler warning, but no spoilers here. And it is not really a super spoil. I mean, I guess there are spoilers in there, but it's not like
Right.
the M. Night Shyamalan show where if you give 5 minutes of the show away,
They're all
you're done
dead.
for. Yeah, exactly. But but it is but there's some characters early on that you like, you want to hate or you want to love, and it kind of changes how it shapes. but it's not goofy at all. And you know, and for me, it's almost like why the world needs it. And I read somewhere, and I wish I had the source for this, that during times of adversity, through you know, if you look through film history, that some of the biggest kind of feel good movies have taken place during difficult times. And so it kind of makes sense, you know,
Mhm.
right now in terms of the show. And interesting, you would say, wow, they designed the show for this time. Now, obviously, that's not how it works in
Right.
terms of the TV and movie business. This has been in the works, you know, for years. But talking about a home run, and you almost wonder if we were not in the midst of a pandemic where people were watching more content, if it would have picked up like that. But it is just, you know, this is not the show I thought would have put Apple TV Plus on the map. But in a weird
Right.
way, it made it very, very mainstream.
I think you're right. I think more so morning show got, they promoted it heavily at the
Yeah,
beginning, but
and it's getting tons of awards and stuff.
yeah, but this is the one that I think is really putting it over the edge. The thing for me that I love so much about it, there's lots of things, but um you know, I played college tennis, and my college tennis coach was in many ways very similar to Ted Lasso.
Mm,
Just cared about us as people, and us and our building trust with each other and becoming a team more than the X's and O's. And he really cared about us, and he put his family first as well. You know, some coaches are hard driven, and you know, he was gentle, yet authoritative. Just reminds me a lot of that. And then I had the opportunity to coach tennis for many years as I was getting my first company going when I was, you know, my low 20s. And I felt, I can feel what he's going through as he's trying to bring these guys together. So that was the first thing that really hit home for me, is the coaching aspect. What about you? What do you think pulled you in so deep?
well, you know, first of all, I pulled it, and you know, obviously, as I wear my Atlanta United sweater here, you know, I thought it was originally I thought it was because this is going to be a cool movie with soccer and Jason, and based on this character. And by the way, if you have not watched the original Ted Lasso promos, maybe we'll put a link in our show links. It's on YouTube. It's from 2013 2014. They did two kind of extended commercials on NBC, and they are some of the best promos I've ever seen. Jason Sudeikis as, and it's actually not the same Ted Lasso you see to some extent. There's elements of it, but make sure you watch it. And that's what drew me in. I'm like, wow, we're gonna have hopefully a smartly written Apple TV show on you know, that's soccer based and so forth. But you know, I'd be honest with you, and I was right thinking about, you know, why is this so? Why did the world need it? Why is it so reachable to folks? You know, it is incredibly inspiring. It's like a reachable escapism, right? There's so much, you know, in this time. There's escapism like Star Wars, which is complete, you know, totally world. But this is like saying, man, I would love to hang out with this guy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I would
Mm-hmm.
love to, you know these people. I'd love to be part of this world. And it feels very reachable. So, you know, I think that's what the key is. And it just feels good. And I was not, I thought it was going to be slapsticky and, you know,
Right.
rolling over. And it is funny. There's some really good stuff, but it was just a feel, and you don't feel, I was guilty about feeling good, but sometimes it's just not cheap at all. It's
Mm-hmm.
just very
Mm-hmm.
well done. But for that reachable escapism, I think is so much that that this show brings.
Yeah, and it's plausible, you know, to a certain degree. The whole thing feels a little believable, but the other thing that, you know, again, aside from the acting and the comedy, it's, I mean, it's fantastic. The other thing that really resonates with me is that you know, I find most of my time at this point, in terms of the companies that I'm building, is focused on really coaching. It's focused
Yeah.
on leading the leaders, right? And again, that's how he approaches this whole thing. I think, you know, there's times when he says like, you know, whether we win or lose the game isn't as important as, you know, how this team feels and how they're doing it together and how much they try. And it just, a lot of the things, I don't think it was meant to be some sort of, you know, business leadership show at
Right.
all, but it definitely resonates with me. You know, like I focus so much more on the culture and the way our team trusts each other at Dragon Army. And I know the results will take care of themselves. And yeah, we won't crush it every day, but we're going to have success because it's built on a foundation of trust and believing in each other. And I mean, that's what he's all about. So that again, I found some things that are personal to me in this story
Yeah.
beyond just how great and funny it is.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a part that I think I find great as well too. That in some of the comments, even on one of the posts we've had about people are actually taking management lessons or
Yeah.
realizations from it, which is just incredible, including how he, as this character, reaches out to the antagonist pretty early on, and but does not. It's not this immediate conflict. It's this element of how do we, you say, do you use stick or honey, right? How to use honey to kind of help bring things along, and this building of trust with the team. So yeah, so this great dimension of building teams and organizations, dealing with superiors, dealing with, and by the way, and again, no spoilers here, but also dealing with the realities of family too. So as much as they're saying this is a feel good movie, you actually, and I think what pulls you into the show, there's some difficult things that the characters have to deal with. That's very real life, which makes you pull for them even more.
Mhm.
But I think is really what kind of pulls you into it as well too.
And then,
But
they just announced that they renewed it for a second and third season. I've never heard of that.
yeah,
Uh,
and I think that's an Apple TV play because they're trying to build their content library. But yeah, I think it's you're talking about having it on the right platform right now, because I think as writers, it's going to give them a lot of room to maneuver.
mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, so now we just can't wait till
I
the
know.
next seasons
Do
come
we know
out.
when? Do we know when?
I don't know, because I know they have been better than most in terms of trying to get shows out early, like Servant is coming out soon. But yeah, I don't know when they're going to do it. I'm imagining it'll be next fall the earliest, but we'll see, hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty cool that they're having that as well too. But yeah, so it's a great show. And one thing, there is this sport, there's been some good coverage on Ted Lasso, and of course Sports Illustrated. They have a good article that came out, I believe, in August, and there's one line here that I thought was I think describes what we're talking about very well. And I'll quote the writer here, but it says, "In the end, Ted Lasso is exactly what an audience needs right now. It's a story that makes you laugh and reminds you to smile at adversity. It's a lesson that's less about football or soccer management and more about unity. And the script works because it takes hold of our differences and embraces them as one." So it's just pretty cool. So I think Jeff and I, if we were critics here, we'd have thumbs up or whatever, or mugs up or whatever our nomenclature might be. But we definitely recommend Ted Lasso. And Jeff, it sounds like you're going to continue being an advocate of the show as well.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Again, I'm watching it for the second time, and it may not be the last time I watch it before the next season comes out. I can't recommend it enough.
So we're asking everybody as we post this, why does the world need Ted Lasso now? Why did you fall in love with Ted Lasso if you watched it? And if you haven't watched it, make sure you do, and then comment about it. Comment on our social media, comment here on our YouTube channel as well too. And while you're at it, make sure you follow us, get in the conversation. Also follow our podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and subscribe to us on YouTube. So Jeff, first of all, Happy New Year as we go into 2021.
Yeah, back to you. Let's hope for a solid start to the year.
And Happy New Year to all of you. And thanks for joining us here on the Jeff and Alex podcast.